Look at the example, the beautiful example of our beloved Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Aisha radiallahu anha says that they would go months without the candle being lit in the home. They would not have meat to eat for weeks at a time. They would live off of barley and dates. Why do I bring this up? When we're looking at our time that we've been spending these last 2 months in this joy and this luxury, we look back at our life of our model in our life, the example, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and we look at what we have. We have it all good, and we are still upset with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What do we say? We say, I don't have that Benz, I don't have that S-Class, I don't have that iPhone, I don't have that Samsung. This is the concept of our souls not being content with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is actually us turning our back against Him, because we have been commanded that enumerate the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on ourselves. Look at the example of a man, a companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam by the name of Mus'ab ibn Umair radiallahu anhu. Who was this Mus'ab ibn Umair? I hope that you youngsters are listening, because this really applies to us. He was a young boy in the prime of his youth, and he came from a very respected and rich and noble family. And this was in the pre-Islamic days, where he would wear such garments and such clothes that even Gucci and Prada would not even be able to equal to that. But what happened? What happened to this Mus'ab ibn Umair? Iman and Islam penetrated his heart so deep that he was ready to sacrifice all of that for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is mentioned about Mus'ab ibn Umair that when he would walk through the streets of Mecca, that his fragrance would be so intense, his cologne if you want to say, that when he would pass by the street, and if he left for hours, still people could smell that fragrance there. That's how much quality was even in the fragrance of Mus'ab ibn Umair. But what happened at the time of his acceptance of Islam? His mother put him through torture. He went through so much hardship, and he was now in the worst of clothing. From the best of clothing, now he comes into the worst and tattered of clothes. From the best of scent, he comes into the scent of sweat and hardship. And on top of that, what is one of the most important things that we remember about Mus'ab ibn Umair is that at the time of the battle of Uhud, that when they were burying his body, that they didn't have enough clothes for him to cover to put the sheet and the shroud around his body to cover his body. That he had such a small piece of a shroud that when they would cover his head and his upper body, that his lower body would be exposed. And when they would cover his lower body, his upper body would be exposed. So what did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam do in turn? He said, take the palm tree, the leaves of the palm tree and put it on his body. And so this individual, at the height and the climax of his youth and power, and he could have maintained that status, but what did he look for? He didn't look for the status of this world. He looked for the status of the hereafter. إِنَّ الدُّنْيَا خُلِقَتْ لَكُمْ وَإِنَّكُمْ خُلِقْتُمْ لِلْآخِرَةِ. Indeed, indeed the world has been created for you, but you have been created for the hereafter. And this is what the Sahabas lived for.